At various points in American history, growing your own food has been discouraged, restricted, and in some cases outright banned. Not by accident, by design. And the gardens they tried hardest to eliminate were not the dangerous ones. They were the ones that worked too well. A garden that feeds a family for free, year after year, from plants that cost nothing to maintain and nothing to replace, that is not a garden any system built around selling you food wants you to have. Today we are going to talk about exactly that garden, the plants in it, how they work, why they disappeared from mainstream gardening, and how you rebuild it. This is the garden they tried to ban, and it feeds forever, costs nothing, and that is exactly why they hid it. Drop in the comments right now. Have you ever grown any of your own food, or are you starting completely from scratch? I read every single comment, and your answer shapes the content I make next. Tell me now. Plant number 1, Dandelion, Taraxacum officinale. In the 1800s, American families deliberately planted dandelions in their kitchen gardens. They were a valued food crop, every part edible, every part medicinal, growing in the porous soil with zero inputs, returning every spring without replanting. Then, the American lawn industry emerged. Pesticide companies needed a villain. Dandelion became a weed by marketing, not by nature. The dandelion did not change. The story around it did. Young spring leaves are among the most nutritionally dense greens available, higher in vitamins A, C, and K than spinach. The roots are harvested in fall, roasted, and used as a coffee substitute that has zero caffeine and significant prebiotic benefit. The flowers are edible raw, made into wine, infused into honey, used in fritters. A single dandelion plant provides 4 distinct harvests from 4 distinct parts across the entire growing season. It costs nothing. It grows everywhere. It comes back every year without being asked. The only reason most people spend money removing it from their lawn instead of harvesting it from their garden is that somebody, a long time ago, decided it was more profitable that way. Hardy every zone in North America. No care required. No watering, no fertilizing. The most self-sufficient food plant on this list, and one of the most nutritionally valuable things you can grow. Plant number 2, lamb's quarters, Chenopodium album. Before spinach became the standard green in American gardens, lamb's quarters fed generations of families across Europe and North America. It was a staple. It was reliable. It self-seeded so prolifically that once you had it forever without ever planting it again. Then, commercial seed companies needed crops they could sell repeatedly. A plant that self-seeds and returns indefinitely without purchased input does not serve that model. Lamb's quarters was gradually replaced by spinach in gardening literature, in seed catalogs, in popular understanding. It did not disappear. It was quietly sidelined. The flavor is milder than spinach, more versatile, with none of the bitterness that mature spinach develops in summer heat. It tolerates heat, drought, and poor soil that causes spinach to bolt and fail in June. It produces harvestable greens from late spring through fall, a window twice as long as any cultivated spinach variety. Cook it exactly like spinach. Use it raw in salads when young. It is nutritionally comparable to spinach in iron, calcium, and vitamin content. It grows in every zone of North America as a warm season self-seeder. Once established in a garden, it returns every year from seeds it drops itself. You never plant it again. Plant number 3, Purslane, Portulaca oleracea. Purslane is the most omega-3 rich plant food available anywhere. More omega-3 fatty acids per gram than any other leafy green, including kale, spinach, or Swiss chard. In Mediterranean and Middle Eastern cooking, it has been a valued food plant for thousands of years. In American gardening, it is classified as a weed and removed. The gap between what purslane actually is and what American gardening culture says it is represents one of the more significant nutritional oversights of the last century. It grows flat and low, with small succulent leaves and a slightly lemony, slightly mucilaginous texture that works raw in salads, lightly sautéed in olive oil and garlic, or added to soups and stews as a thickener. Golden Purslane is the cultivated variety with larger leaves and slightly milder flavor than wild types. It self-seeds prolifically. It grows in full sun and extreme heat, where other greens fail completely. It requires no watering once established in summer. It is one of the most heat and drought-tolerant food plants that exists. In July and August, when most greens have bolted and died, Purslane is at peak production. Harvest it. Eat it. Let some go to seed at the end of the season. It returns next year from those seeds without you doing anything. Free food, indefinitely, from a plant most people are paying someone to remove. Plant number 4. Wood sorrel. Oxalis stricta. Wood sorrel is one of the most common garden plants in North America, and one of the most consistently misidentified, misunderstood, and discarded food plants growing in American yards right now. It looks like clover. It is not clover. The leaves are heart-shaped and fold down at night or in rain. The flavor is bright, sharp lemon, stronger than French sorrel, more citrus-forward than anything else at this size. Children who taste it for the first time always react the same way. They did not know a plant growing in the lawn could taste like that. Use the leaves and stems raw in salads to replace lemon juice. Add to cold drinks as a garnish. Use in sauces anywhere you want acidity without vinegar. The small yellow flowers are edible and carry the same lemon flavor as the leaves. It spreads by seed and by rhizome. Once it is in your garden, it returns every season without any intervention. It grows in shade, in poor soil, in the cracks between paving stones. It costs nothing. It requires nothing. It produces a unique flavor that no grocery store sells and no cultivated vegetable replicates. Plant number 5. Stinging nettle. Urtica dioica. Before you move past this one, hear it out. Stinging nettle was one of the most important food and fiber plants in human history across Europe, Asia, and North America. For centuries, it was grown deliberately near homes for food, for medicine, for the fiber in its stems that was spun into cloth before cotton became commercially dominant. It was not a weed people tolerated. It was a crop people cultivated. The sting disappears completely with cooking or drying. Blanched nettles taste like a richer, more mineral-forward version of spinach. They were used as a spinach substitute across Northern Europe for centuries and remain a valued culinary ingredient in Italian, Greek, and Scandinavian cooking today. Nettle soup, nettle pasta, nettle tea, nettle pesto, all of them made from a plant that grows for free, returns every year, and requires nothing. Nutritionally, dried nettle leaf is one of the most mineral-dense foods measurable, high in iron, calcium, magnesium, potassium, and vitamins A, C, and K simultaneously. Not one of those things. All of them in a single plant that costs nothing and grows itself. Hardy zones 3 through 10. Grows in rich, moist soil near water sources and in garden beds where soil has been amended with compost. Spreads through rhizomes and self-seeding. Harvest with gloves in spring when shoots are young and tender. Blanch for 60 seconds. The sting is gone. The nutrition remains. I want to stop here for a moment because something has been sitting with me while putting this list together. There is a record of how our ancestors actually ate, what they grew, what they harvested from the land around their homes, how they built food systems that cost nothing and sustained families through seasons that had no grocery stores, no seed catalogs, no backup plan. That record exists. It was written down. I found it in a source so old that the people who wrote it were feeding their families before the United States existed as a country. Nearly 400 years old. What it describes about plants like the ones on this list, why they were chosen, how they were used, what families knew about them that modern gardening has completely forgotten, reframed everything I thought I understood about growing food. I studied that source and wrote it all down myself, so you would not have to go digging through 400 years of text on your own. If you want to, you can check our channel store. It is there. Plant number 6, ground elder, Agapodium podagraria. Ground elder was brought to Britain by the Romans as a food crop. For over 1,000 years it was grown in monastery gardens across medieval Europe as a reliable, self-sustaining green that required no attention and returned every spring regardless of what the winter had done. It was valued precisely because it could not be killed and could not be stopped. Then ornamental gardening culture arrived, and ground elder became the most hated garden plant in Britain. Not because it is dangerous, not because it is poisonous, but because it spreads without asking permission and cannot be easily removed once established. The same qualities that made it valuable as a food plant made it intolerable in a decorative garden. Young spring leaves taste like a mild combination of parsley and celery. They are harvested in April and May when the leaves are young and tender. Older leaves become bitter and tough. Cooked like spinach, used in soups, added to stocks, or eaten raw in small quantities in salads. Grow it in a container to control its spread completely. In a large pot, it produces abundant young growth every spring, stays fully contained, and requires nothing but occasional watering. The qualities that make it a nightmare in open ground make it a perfect container perennial. It comes back every year. It fills the container. You harvest the young growth, and it regrows within weeks. Hardy zones 4 through 9. The most self-sufficient plant on this list. Once it is in a container, your only job is to harvest it. Plant number 7. Hosta. Edible hosta. Hostas are in millions of American gardens right now. They are planted for their foliage. Almost nobody growing them knows they are edible. In Japan, hosta shoots have been eaten as a spring vegetable called urui for centuries. The young shoots emerge in early spring, tightly furled, pale green or white depending on variety, and are harvested before the leaves open fully. The flavor is mild, slightly sweet, with a texture similar to asparagus. They are blanched, stir-fried, tempura battered, or eaten raw with dipping sauce. The window is specific. Young shoots only, before the leaves fully unfurl. Once open, the leaves become tough and less palatable. But that early spring window, when the shoots are emerging from the ground in tight spirals, produces one of the most delicate and distinctive vegetables available from any perennial in the garden. Hostas already grow in shade, deep shade, where almost no other food plant produces anything. They come back every year, larger and more productive than the previous season. They divide easily, and each division is a new, productive plant. People are already growing them everywhere. Almost none of them know they are sitting next to free food every spring. Hardy zones 3 through 9. No care required beyond what most people already give their hostas. Harvest the shoots. Let the rest of the plant grow normally. It will be larger and more productive next year. Plant number 8. Ostrich fern. Fiddleheads. Mattiuccia struthiopteris, fiddleheads, the tightly coiled young fronds of the ostrich fern, are one of the most expensive specialty vegetables in any grocery store or farmer's market that carries them. $8 to $15 per pound for a few weeks in early spring. They are available for approximately 3 weeks per year before the fronds open and become inedible. An established ostrich fern colony in your garden produces that same harvest for free every April, indefinitely. The plant spreads through underground runners, slowly building a larger colony each year and producing more fiddleheads every season than the season before. By year 5, an original planting of 3 crowns has become a colony, producing more fiddleheads than a household can consume in the harvest window. Cook fiddleheads thoroughly. Blanch or sauté until fully tender. Do not eat them raw in quantity. The flavor of properly cooked fiddleheads is nutty, green, with an asparagus quality that has no direct comparison in any other vegetable. Hardy zones 3 through 7, partial to full shade, moist, rich soil. Plant near a water source or in a low area of the garden where moisture accumulates. This is one of the few food plants on this list that thrives in conditions most other vegetables find impossible: deep shade and wet soil. It fills the gaps in a food garden that nothing else can fill. Plant number 9. Ramps, wild leek, Allium tricoccum. Ramps are the most sought-after spring-foraged vegetable in North America. Restaurants pay $20 to $30 per pound for them in April. Farmers market vendors sell out before 9 a.m. on the first day of ramp season. Food writers dedicate entire articles to where to find them. Most people have never tasted one. Ramps taste like a wild, intensely flavored combination of garlic and onion, with a green freshness that no cultivated allium replicates. They appear in early spring, sometimes before the last frost, and produce broad, smooth leaves for 4 to 6 weeks before going completely dormant by early summer. For most of the year, the plant is invisible underground, quietly expanding its colony, preparing for the following spring. They can be grown in a garden. This is the information that most ramp coverage omits entirely. Ramps require woodland conditions, partial to full shade, rich, moist soil with significant organic matter, slightly acidic pH. Under a deciduous tree in a garden bed, amended with leaf mold, is the correct environment. They establish slowly. Year 1 and 2, they are building roots. Year 3 onward, they begin expanding. By year 5, a productive ramp colony is one of the most valuable food assets in any food garden. Hardy zones 3 through 7. Plant bulbs or divisions in fall. Mulch with leaves. Do not harvest heavily for the first 3 years. After that, harvest no more than 1/3 of any colony per season. The rest continues expanding, producing more every year. The people who plant ramps today eat for free from them for the next 20 years. The people who wait continue paying restaurant prices for something growing wild in the woods that they could have in their own garden. Plant number 10. Turkish rocket, Buneus orientalis. This plant does not appear in mainstream seed catalogs. It has no marketing, no garden center display, no social media presence in mainstream gardening culture, and it is one of the most productive, most self-sustaining food plants that grows in an American climate. Turkish rocket is a perennial brassica that produces edible leaves from early spring through late fall. Young leaves are harvested raw in salads, mildly peppery, more complex than arugula. Mature leaves are cooked like mustard greens. The young flower shoots in spring are harvested exactly like broccoli rabe and taste nearly identical. Nutty, slightly bitter, with that specific brassica sweetness that develops with quick, high-heat cooking. It grows in poor soil. It grows in partial shade. It tolerates drought that ends most food plants. It self-seeds and produces volunteer plants throughout the garden on its own schedule. Once established, it is effectively permanent. The root system deepens every year, and the plant produces more each season than the season before. A plant this productive and this self-sustaining has no commercial future. You cannot sell it repeatedly. You cannot build a subscription model around something that propagates itself indefinitely from a single purchase. That is not a flaw. That is the entire point. The garden they tried to ban is not one garden. It is a way of thinking about food that prioritizes permanence over convenience, self-sufficiency over consumption, and knowledge over dependence. Every plant on this list was known, grown, and valued by people who could not afford to replant every year, who could not drive to a store when the harvest failed, who built their food systems to last because their lives depended on it. That knowledge was not lost by accident. A food system built on annual purchases, on seeds bought every spring, on produce shipped from 1,000 miles away. That system requires you not to know what these plants are. The moment you know, the calculation changes. You know now. Here is what I want you to do before you close this video. Pick one plant from this list, just one, and find out if it will grow in your zone. Then plant it this season, not next season, this one. The people who act on this today are the ones eating from it for the next 20 years. Tell me in the comments which plant you chose and what zone or state you are in. I want to know what you are working with. That answer shapes what I make next. Subscribe to Gaia Lost Vault right now. Every week we recover the knowledge that got buried, the plants that got sidelined, the food systems that worked too well for anyone selling you food to want you to have. This is what this channel is built for. You do not want to find us 6 months from now and wish you had been here from the beginning. Go build the garden they tried to ban. I will see you in the next one.